Hello, everyone. It's Crystal Lee Moore Lucier here, also known as your Home Sweet Home 519 Realtor, Crystal Lee Moore, and this is Realtor Life. Guys, I'm so excited to introduce our guest today. We are being joined by Faisal Susiwala, and he is going to tell us a little bit about himself, his story, his book. Welcome, Faisal.
Thanks for having me on, Crystal.
Oh, so excited. So excited. I was just saying before we started recording, I just finished your book, The Real Deal. And what a wonderful, wonderful resource for people. And when did you start writing this book?
So it kind of started, notes started about 15 years prior to the book, and I just never
Okay.
had the time to sit down. So I had a folder with sort of, a little bit of a journal, events that were happening in my life. And I would just keep these notes and then of course I had digital notes as well, Word documents, just anytime I would have screenshots, I would just print them, stick it into a folder. And then, of course, the pandemic happens in March of 2020.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, well, what am I going to do now? So I packed up and left for the cottage and spent a couple of months, few days a week,
Yeah.
and published it by September of the same year. So that was
Good.
it was a journal of probably 15 years collaborating everything together and putting it out.
Amazing. What I really liked about it is that and a lot of the times like we've interviewed entrepreneurs on here and I'm sure just like you, we're always talking with other colleagues. And sometimes it can feel overwhelming and a little bit intimidating because you've had a lot of success in your career. So I found that reading the book was like, I mean, I think a big piece of it is who you are, but even when you put your Susawala system, like it's saying, hey, like, here's what I did. And yes, you can look at my success and almost be intimidated, but if you're willing to put the work in your own way, you can be successful too. And I find not enough people kind of give the blueprint.
Absolutely. There was so much failure before the success and so many struggles that you go through before you actually start learning the do's and don'ts
Yeah.
and and all the fears and overcoming those fears
Yeah.
and putting those fears in the right place to thrive and cutting out all that noise. That's a lot of it.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think that, yeah, what I really loved, I loved how personal you got about your background. And I mean, what a go-getter to have started your career without a car, like in high school.
Yeah.
That's so cool. Um, I also really loved right from the get-go, and I think it's important that we're always looking at like-minded people. Um, and if you can remind me from Mr. Menery's, his mantra for you was do the right thing.
Do the
And
right thing, do a good job, the money will come.
yes,
And he was 100% correct in saying that.
yeah,
And when you're young, I was 18 years old getting my real estate license. And when you're young, you're impressionable.
yeah,
Uh, and those days, we were surrounded by the typical salesman, the "have I got a deal for you" type of environment. Now
yeah,
we're talking 38 years ago. So it was a different, if you've watched an episode of Mad Men, that was kind of what this industry was like back then, right?
yeah.
And, it's easy to be influenced by your environment. And I was very blessed and very fortunate that Mr. Maneri, guided me and mentored me and kept me sort of on that path. And then I had a lot of guidance, from my parents and my family. And
Yeah.
so just, recalibrating you throughout the years. I always say, you have blind spots. It's like driving a car. You can see what's in front of you, you see what's behind you,
Yeah.
you can see on the side view mirrors, but there's always that blind spot. And when you've got someone that's watching your blind spots for you,
Yeah.
that is the true gift. And I was blessed to have that in my life.
Fantastic. And I mean, and I think, and you didn't even know when you were writing it, but how important a book like this would be. because we have how many thousands of people that got their license in the pandemic thinking, oh, easy. Like all I have to do is list a house and we're managing the lineup the whole time. So how important it is to have something where you can actually read there is a journey, there is a path, and sometimes it's easy, sometimes it's really, really hard, right? Um,
Totally.
okay, so you talk a little bit about the different ups and downs in the market. If you were to give someone some advice, because right now I think there are the agents who have systems in place are kind of having an easier time, but it's still a bit of a rough road. There seems to be a loss of hope with some agents right now, though. What would you say, given all your experience in up and down markets?
You have to be flexible. You have to be willing to pivot. You have to also understand that your license is not just about buying and selling, like monetize it. I talk about this in my book. So monetizing your license means that what else can you do with it? There's a whole business out there. And people used to make fun of me when I was becoming successful that why are you wasting your time on leases? Why are you taking on these $1,200 a month apartments and cheap homes that you're too busy. You shouldn't be doing that. That always kept me afloat. It kept my overheads paid. So I would always look at it, and especially my earlier years, if I can lease 3 or 4 homes a month, that'll pay for my car payment, that will pay for my basic needs will get covered.
Yeah.
So you check your ego and you say, okay, I'm in business. I'm not going to say no to business. So then we came into the situation like you mentioned where we have only feasted for the last 10 years and only now are we starting to feel the famine, having been through 3 recessions in my career. I learned very early on. 1988, 1989 were great years. 1990, the market crashed. It
Yeah.
didn't recover until 2000. And what did I have to do in those 10 years to sustain myself and stay in business? So those things were putting your head down, doing all the right things, being consistent, taking action, allowing the time to let those things work through. It's not a flash in the pan where, oh, I sent out 1,000 flyers and I didn't get a call, so I'm done doing that. It takes time.
Yes.
So don't give up too early. In fact, don't ever give up, but don't give up too early on things that are proven to work and go back to basics. It's not about pre-construction. That's where the money's at. I just got to take 12 investors in and I'm going to get paid. And well, good luck closing those deals now. Right.
Yes.
And that's the problem that we've seen. So people were hyper focused on one facet of their business and let all the other stuff fall off.
Yes.
And when you do that, so, make sure you stay. Property management is another way to monetize your license. When you sell a property to an investor, if you manage it, it's a retention model. It's not so much the income that you're going to get from managing it. For years, I managed portfolios for free. And I did that because in 5 years, 7 years, 10 years, when those folks wanted to sell their properties,
Yes.
they would come back to me. So it was just retaining my client as
Yes.
opposed to handing them off to a manager. And then the manager has a relationship with a realtor. That realtor gets the business. That was one of the things. So these are all things. And then just again, stay grounded, get back to basics, do the things that work,
Yes.
lean into your sphere, reach out to your past clients. Make sure you're not a secret agent. Let people know you still exist.
Yeah. Absolutely. I did like listening to the part of your book where you talked about Tony Robbins. Huge fan. And it's basically, yeah, it's kind of like when things are going really well, people tend to party, and when things don't go so well, they tend to ponder, right? Like that's a really big Tony message. And I think in the learning and the growing, that's where there's so much opportunity.
There
But
is, and these are the times where opportunities, you said it extremely well. These are the times where the opportunities exist. If you have herd mentality and you're jumping in when everybody else is jumping in, and you're jumping out when everybody else is jumping out, I have had the greatest success in down markets because that's when those who don't believe in themselves
Yeah.
start walking away and say, well, I can't do this because it's not easy anymore.
Yeah.
And if you were in this because it was easy, you're not going to last long in the business.
Yeah. Absolutely. I also think you mentioned something about your vision, right? So I think your vision is very forward thinking because like you're looking at client retention. You're not always looking at, am I getting a paycheck today? And if I'm not, I'm not interested. And that's a really important lesson. I think even when you're talking about like if you're helping, let's say someone into their rental, you keep in touch with those people and you're their guide. You can be the person that's helping them with that first house, and then the second house, and then the third house.
And just
Absolutely.
giving honest advice to people. It's not about, like you said, it's that retention, it's that long-term vision. It's not about instant gratification. For 10 years, I didn't take listings because I was too young. People wouldn't trust me with their homes. So what did
Yeah,
I do? I worked with buyers, 16 hours a day. Did open houses on Saturday, 1 to 3, 3 to 5. On Sunday, 1 to 3, 3 to 5. Showings before, showings after.
yeah,
These were the principles behind my business. Just put in a lot of time
hustle.
working with
Yeah,
people, and eventually those people will become your sellers as well. And if you didn't feel it was right for them, to this day, I walk into listings and I say, well, it's probably not a good time for you to sell. Let's just wait it
yeah,
out for it because you don't need to sell right now. And then there's other instances where you have to give people solutions and assist them in
yeah,
getting to the finish line because they're in need. And so it's, just always, again, goes back to Mr. Maneri's principle, do the right thing. If you
yeah.
continuously do the right thing, that money will continue to flow and you will never have to worry, where's my next paycheck going to come from? It's because it will always be there.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I love that a lot. And one thing we talk about um in in these sessions as well is the network of realtors we have. Now you have a really special format. So in the world of everyone's teaming up, teaming up, teaming up, you're one of the most successful agents and you've gone a different direction with your team model. Do you want to kind of break it down?
Yeah, absolutely. So the traditional team requires a team leader and then 7, 10, 20, 50 agents that work for that team leader. The
Yeah.
team leader is basically hands off from the perspective of showing up at the listing in the most part, or working with buyers. So my model is a referral network model. I have 4 full-time assistants who are not licensed. They're not agents. They do feedback, follow up, marketing, keeping me on track, booking my haircuts, booking my dental appointment, watching my finances, paying my visa bill. Like whatever has to be done, I am absolutely useless for all of those items. My social media account. So they handle absolutely everything. My data management, everything is done by them. I am always available to meet with a seller. I am always available to meet with the buyer who wants to see my listing. Now, when I show them my listing at 123 Main Street, and 125 Main Street is also for sale with another realtor. It's not my listing. And that buyer says, we'd like to see, since we're here, can we take a look at the one next door? I will not show that one next door. I will
Okay.
refer them to an agent who is working with buyers but has their own business, runs
Yeah.
their, in my market, a couple of my buyers' agents have billboards, bus backs, benches. They're my competitors,
Yeah.
but they're aggressive. They're
Yeah.
great at what they do. They're hungry. They want leads. So I'm a lead generator.
Yeah.
I'm not going to work with buyers. When somebody calls and says, I'm coming into town, I want to see 7 to 10 homes this weekend, I will refer them out. Just as if I had a buyer going to London, I'm going
Yeah.
to send them to Krystal, right? And Krystal's going to give me a referral fee.
Yeah.
So I collect a referral fee on that. But when it comes to the listing side, it's all me. It
Good.
doesn't matter if it's a basement apartment for $1,200 a month. I'm the guy that shows up. And it's
Okay.
funny because there's so many team models that are out there.
Yes.
When I do show up, I get this strange look from people sometimes because they weren't
Yeah.
expecting me. The guy on the back of the bus had just showed up at their house.
Yeah.
And I'm, I kind of break the ice by saying you thought I was a lot taller in real life, right?
Huh.
But it is funny because they're not expecting me. So, 85 to 90% of my win is the fact that I showed up.
Wonderful. Okay.
Because now they know they have my attention and they will work with me directly until the home is sold. So I
Fantastic.
don't pass them off to somebody. That's in a nutshell my sort of system on the referral network side.
That's awesome. Now, and I think you explained this in a call we were on with our Buffini group, but so when you do that, when you do refer to the referral agent, that client still stays yours, or you're referring the client out.
No, so it stays on both.
Okay.
So, a lot of team situations are also, hey, if it's my client and I've referred them to you,
Yeah.
they do not go on your database. You do not contact them. I'm the guy that's going to contact them. You stay
Right.
away from them. They're my people.
Right.
I very early on, I'm talking maybe 15 years ago, let go of that whole idea
Okay.
of possessing that client because in an instance where somebody called me and said, I'm going to see 7 to 10 homes this weekend. Can you help me? And I referred them out. I never met them. I just referred them.
Yeah.
Now, if, for example, Stacy is one of my referral buyer agents, if Stacy builds a relationship with those people, she becomes Aunt Stacy to those little kids. She's got a relationship. She's in their home. She's helped them. She's nurtured that relationship. And the day it closes, I say to Stacy, that's it, hands off, don't ever talk to these people again. Now they're getting drip campaigns and all this kind of stuff from me.
Right.
They're like, hey, whatever happened to the wonderful lady that helped us buy this home? She's never called us. She's never talked to us. She's never sent us a Christmas card. So that relationship now deteriorates.
Right.
And it happened to me once, like 15 years ago.
Okay.
Um, and I saw a for sale sign on their front lawn. Even though I kept in touch with them every single, many times per year. And I asked Stacy to reach out to them and ask them what happened. And the response was, you kind of forgot about us. You never like stayed in touch. We heard from Faisal, but we never met the guy,
Yeah.
right? So that's the disconnect that's always there. And that for that reason, I always encourage those agents to stay in touch. I do as well.
Yeah.
And the beauty of that is if that buyer's agent gets that call, I take the listing
Okay.
and pay a referral fee for that buyer's agent, keeping them warm
Perfect.
throughout all the years.
Yeah.
And then they're guaranteed every single lead on that home if they get. So there's always this reciprocal business that's
Yes.
coming to them, and it allows them to stay in business because there's always this lead generation that they don't have to pay thousands of dollars a month on the hopes that someone's going to see a Google ad and call them and
Yeah.
they're getting hot, ready to buy purchasers. And if that purchaser also has a home to sell, they're
Yeah.
getting referral fee back from me because they kept that client warm and got me in the door to get the listing. And then I do my whole marketing and getting them the top dollar I can. Again, giving back the leads to that buyer's agent. So it just continuously works for everybody. Everyone eats this way.
Amazing, amazing. And I think what the biggest thing I heard there is that you are focused on the big picture, but also on the reciprocity, right? So it really is, and I'm sure because of that, you're attracting kind of the top of the top agents.
Absolutely. They love working with me
Yeah,
because there's no expectation from me that they have to bring in X amount of deals per year.
right.
And there's no expectation that from them that I'm going to feed them. They don't have their hand out because they're running their own business. I'm just giving them leads on a regular basis when the market is there. It's too much for some of these folks to
Yeah,
take on. They're like, okay, Faisal, we've got like 11 people we're working with. Like, send it to somebody else, right? Which is great because the quality doesn't decline that way.
exactly. Yeah, no, that's fantastic. And I think, um, and one of the things, so how many agents are in it's the Cambridge board?
How many realtors are in the Cambridge board? Well,
Yeah.
it's now Cambridge, Kitchener, Waterloo.
Okay.
I'm guessing, but I would say close to 2,500. I could be wrong on that.
Okay.
In Cambridge board alone, it was hovering around 500. So with
Yeah.
KW, now we've amalgamated. So now
Yeah.
it's, I think, close to maybe 2,000 to 2,500 agents.
Amazing. Yeah. And I have to say, like, even it was really nice when I did get to I saw your book because I've actually been in touch with you on listing before and I was in Guelph, right? So if you think like when you're thinking kind of networking, get to know the agents, right? Because like it's the chances of you working with an agent in your own city pretty high, right? With
Yeah,
500. I mean, 500 is a big number, but it's not that big of a number.
that's right. Yeah.
When we look at like kind of like a GTA agent where they have 70,000 colleagues, so they
Yes.
you may
Yes.
not. But how cool is it that you're out there kind of because I'm sure that you have situations with these agents if you've worked with them and you know they're great. If they come with a buyer to your listing, right? You've
Absolutely.
already
The relationships matter. In every
yes,
business, it matters. In our business, it matters so much because we're also dealing with people's homes. It's not just an object, right?
yeah,
And it's very important to people that the person representing the buyer or even the buyer, who they are, and let's get the real story here, as opposed to, and I have nothing against. I love out of town agents because they bring lots of money to our market.
yeah,
But I'm not, but sometimes you don't have that relationship established with those agents. So
yeah,
when there is someone that's in your know, or if they've taken the time to send you an email, introduce themselves, tell you a little bit about them, whatever, just have building some rapport ahead of the
yeah,
listing or the offer presentation, it goes a long way. And it might be the difference between you getting that call saying, "Hey, look, we're close, but I'm going to give you another opportunity to improve because we like your story. We like
yes.
your buyer. We'd really love to see your buyer buy this house." So it always comes together.
Absolutely. No, so important. Now, you talked also in the book about real estate investing and kind of how you grew your business that way. What would you say to people who today, like a big, the media is obviously very having a heyday with their 24-hour news cycle, but what would you say to someone if they're concerned about affordability? Is it still, would you say, a good time to invest in real estate?
There are so many great opportunities right now. I am still an investor, and I'm an investor every single day because I'm looking for those opportunities. Just as last month, I purchased personally a 6 unit townhome complex, and it was on the market for a significantly higher price. And all the investors are looking the other way right now because they're getting killed in the stock market. They're getting killed in their mutual funds. They're getting killed in what? But it's on paper,
Yeah,
right? You haven't lost until you've sold. And
right,
and and that's what I'm saying to people. So you're celebrating wins, but that's not really a win until you sell. And you're
right,
celebrating you're upset about losses, but it's not a loss unless you sell. And my motto has always been like never sell anything you own. Just keep leveraging and keep building, and that's how you create wealth.
right.
But each day I'm watching the hot sheets. I'm looking for opportunities. If I can't do something on my own,
Yeah,
I'm partnering. I'm partnering with people that I know are willing to invest not only in the property but invest in me. And
yes,
that's how I got my start way back as early as when I was 18 years old
yeah,
was taking a piece. It was only 5%. It was literally just my commission plus whatever I could come up with to
right,
become a partner. And I learned very early on that when you partner with people, you instantly have their trust, their loyalty, and they now know that you have skin in the game. So you're not going to put your money somewhere
yeah,
that you wouldn't want to where it would lose. So they're going to trust that you know what you're doing. And I've done that my entire life. Whenever there's a project or something, or if I'm fearful that that's too big for me, I'll
yeah.
bring others in with me. And you
Now,
you create a big network.
now, do you, and I think one of the questions people usually have in that model is, does it get messy with that many kind of cooks in the kitchen if you're partnering with people on several things, or is there kind of a set out exit strategy for one or the other person to like, do you keep it together until you sell, or is it you partner for a time?
So I'm very selective
Okay.
on who I partner with.
Yeah.
I only partner with people who understand the long-term game that I'm not going to exit. So if you're thinking you want to get into something for 3 years and come out, I'm not your right partner.
Perfect.
My my goal is to create generational wealth, not only for myself, but for my partners as well. So the whole idea here is, well, whatever we're buying, we're going to keep long term. We're going to develop. If there's an exit, it's at the end of the development. It's not prior to the development. And these are the types of things that I've done that have helped me just grow not only my portfolio, but my clientele base as well. Because
Yes.
then others will say, if you have to become attractive, and if you can attract people because you're doing something right organically,
Yes.
that happens. So I find, professionals are great, doctors are great to partner with
Yeah.
because they were tunnel visioned into let's put money in stocks, let's put money in mutual funds. And
Yeah.
then that dip happened in 2007. All the retired doctors went back to work because they were out of the retirement money.
Yeah.
They've learned to diversify now. And so they're great partners and they're not micromanagers.
Right.
Um, and I give them reports on a regular basis. But that's the type of thing. So, identify the sphere that
Right.
you feel. If you've got someone that's just, borrowing to invest and then hungry to find out, okay, where's my profit? Or are we up? Are we
Yes.
down? Wrong partnership.
Right. For sure. No, and I think that's so important because I think, well, I don't know if you remember, you probably do, but there was a big push, I want to say like 8 years ago, 9 years ago, where everyone and their uncle was doing these buy and holds, but they were taking like courses that cost thousands and thousands of dollars. And they were basically just learning how to put out signs and get people to sell their homes off the market. And I remember hearing from some people, and they spent a lot of money on this, and very few of them are doing it now. Because I think it's that's the thing. You need to do it smart and speak with a professional. So, I mean, if I think after reading your book, I feel very confident that if I had investing questions or I wanted to know more, this is where I'd come.
You,
Um,
you know what it is, though? It's transparency.
yes,
My rule has always been what I pay is what you pay. So I'm
yes,
not creating syndicates where, okay, I got into this building for $1.5 million. Now I'm going to get three partners to come in at $700,000 each
right.
and get my money out of there for free. That's the scammer approach that I see day in and day out.
Yeah,
You know, they lock in a project. They get an option on a project, then they go and shop it around to a bunch of people,
yeah,
zero disclosure on what they had really paid for it, and form a company buys another company, and all of a sudden, here, I've got a great project for $2.5 million. That is not a good model. And too many people have tried that,
yeah,
and you will be found out at some point.
yeah.
That this is what you did, and the numbers will not make sense at the end. Although everything looks great on an Excel sheet, reality is very different.
Yeah, exactly. I know, absolutely. It's so true.
Yeah, so you're
Um,
in for the win and you're in for the loss. God forbid
yes.
there's a loss, you're in for the loss as well. And everybody is in the same boat. You didn't come in at a cheaper buy-in than the next guy.
Yes. I just want to touch on two things from the book. And again, these aren't spoilers. There's so much more in the book. But you talked about something that I don't think, and I think you mentioned it as like a fun story, but I don't think I know anyone that would have thought this through and done it. So the night that you slept on Christmas Eve in the apartment, um, so I for it's just stuck with me because I think for anyone else, given the timing, given what happens with the cities and government buildings over Christmas, I don't think anyone else would have thought, hey, wait a second, do you need a licensed security guard? Or can I think outside the box and make this happen? I think many people would have just been like, well, I guess we're just out of luck.
Yeah, but I didn't have that choice because that was my entire life savings that I
Yeah.
had put in there. I had already signed basically a quit claim deed that if I don't pay the builder out, and they were holding me to it. They weren't giving me
Yeah.
a break saying, "Hey, don't worry, it's Christmas. We'll give you another week extension." None of that because and I didn't want them to. I gave them my word. I was going to
Yeah.
keep my word. I
Yeah.
was going to honor everything I had said. They did what they were supposed to do. So they were within their rights to, register the deed and I would have been out.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's amazing when you're in that when you're I call it
Back to the
productive.
wall.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's like productive anxiety, right? Like you
Yes.
channel that anxiety into what do I have to do to make this happen right now? What are
100%.
my choices?
Yeah.
And my only choice was, okay, well, you want it monitored. I said, does it have to be a licensed security guard? Because I couldn't even get a security company out. Like it was Christmas Eve,
Yeah.
right? So I couldn't even get a security company out. And I said, does it? Nope, we just need someone there monitoring. I'm like, okay, well, you got a guy,
Fun.
that's me.
Yeah.
And the bank would not fund me until occupancy permit was given. An
Yeah.
occupancy permit, the condition was that it had to be monitored.
Yeah.
So until the alarm system company showed up on the 27th, I think, of December,
Yeah.
I spent my nights there and my days there, and I just camped out on a sleeping bag and that was it. And I didn't even have TikTok videos or Instagram to
No,
keep.
I was gonna say.
But it was, you know what? I'll tell you, it was a very humbling experience.
Yeah.
And but it got me to where I needed to be in that moment. And you do what you have to do. You think about if I don't do this and again, it goes back to check your ego at the door. Um, I'm not above that. I'm not above anything. I will do what I have to do in order to get to where I need to get to.
Yes. Okay, so a little bit more of a serious topic, but one that was just kind of had me on the edge of my seat while I was listening. September 11th, 2001.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a very life-changing experience, and you really reflect on what your purpose is, and your whole life just sort of it was surreal in the moment, but the aftermath of that was just reflecting on okay, the why. So, when I was writing this book, there's probably another 20 to 30 pages that I wrote about that, which
Yeah.
I have no intention of ever publishing, but I wrote it just because I wanted to
Yeah.
put my thoughts into words and put it on paper. But it was, my brother had given me given my wife and I a holiday to New York to go shopping for our son who was going to be born in January. And so it was still safe enough for Natalie to fly in September before the January birth, and we flew to New York. And my brother had booked me at the Marriott Center at the World Trade Center, so we stayed there the night one. When I found out how much he was paying per night, I checked out, and we went a few blocks to the Milford, stayed there for the next 2 nights, and then. But he had booked us for the 104th floor of the World Trade Center for breakfast on the day that we were leaving, which was September 11th. Natalie and I were out sort of stargazing and having a nice evening out. And she's a stickler. I like to sleep in. I do not like to get up early in the morning, but she does. Well, that evening, that morning at 7 a.m. the alarm goes off and I'm like, come on, let's just switch it to lunch. If they'll agree to switch our reservation to lunch, let's so she said, yeah, okay, fine, we'll just have an easy morning. So I called the tour company that had booked, it was Gray Line that had booked our transportation, whatnot. And I said, can we, and they had also done the reservations for the restaurant. I said, can you change my reservation from breakfast, which was at 8:30 a.m., September 11th? Okay. I said, can you change it to noon? And they said, yeah, no problem. We'll make the call. Well, of course, that never happened. And we were in our hotel room. Natalie was taking a shower, and I heard the bang, and it was loud. And I said to Nat, I said, "Did you hear that?" as she came out. I said, "Did you hear that loud bang?" She goes, "Oh, it's New York. It's construction. It's the noise of New York." I'm like, okay, maybe that's what it is. And I had the television on at about 5 minutes to 9, and they were showing, the world. And I remember on another earlier that week, when we were driving, somebody said, "Oh, there was a little plane that crashed into the World Trade Center like a few years ago, a little propeller plane." And I can't remember the whole story on that, but and I thought, oh, maybe it's the anniversary of that happening, and they were just
Yeah.
getting the highlights of that event. Well, I see in the top right corner live. And then it's like, oh my goodness, what is going on here? And we walked down. We saw pictures with while the tower was still up and it was burning before it actually. We walked down and we saw a lot of this, and it was just, there's so much more to it. But we were stuck there for 4 days, which is, pales by comparison to what the people of New York went through.
Yeah.
And we couldn't get out, and we had bus reservations, train reservations, couldn't get a car rental, couldn't even get a boat into the harbor to get out. Like there was no way out of New York. And we finally, after camping in the train station for 5 days, were able to get a bus that opened up, and we were like the last bus out that night and came
Did
to
you not
Buffalo.
stay in your hotel? I think I assumed that you were in your hotel.
When
5 days?
Yeah, oh yeah. So I had checked out. I had
Yeah.
checked out the hotel, and my brother-in-law, who lives in Los Angeles, was watching the news. And I had told, obviously, my family knew that we had
Yeah.
checked out. He called back the hotel and said, check him back in. He's not going anywhere. Because,
Okay.
we were in
No.
the middle of it. We had no idea what was really going on. We were just like, okay,
Okay.
we should be able to get flights were canceled. We should be able to get on a train or a bus, or get a car rental. So we checked
Yeah.
out thinking, hey, it's our last day here. So at 1 p.m., we went in and checked out of our hotel, took
Yeah.
our luggage and everything, and the streets were just swarmed with people and
Yeah.
panic and running. It was something else. Yeah.
It's great. Well, and I mean, I know you mentioned, and I'd love to hear more just about what an impact that is to wonder, like, if one thing had been different, right? You might have been up there having breakfast with your wife and your soon to be born son. And and I know, like, I would assume, and it's funny, our kids weren't even born yet. So when they know about that it's sad, but for us, this is like our Kennedy situation, right? Like we all know where we were, but you were there. So do you want to just maybe share a little bit about what you shared, and what impact kind of being
It,
given that opportunity to live, really?
it changed your perspective on everything. You go from, and I was doing very well back then. I had been in the business for 14 years or so, or 12 years or so, and I was doing well. And you kind of start reading your news clippings a bit, right? And like, oh, I'm kind of a big deal. You're young, you're impressionable, and you started to do well, and people know you. And I'll tell you what a grounding that was.
Yeah.
And then you look at, like our son was to be born, and it's like, okay, like this is such a blessing. Like the fact that we are alive, that this child is going to be born now, and like there has to be a greater purpose. And that's where I had always grown up in a very generous, philanthropic family, although we didn't have much. My parents didn't have, but they always gave. And I'm like, okay, my purpose in life now is to give back, to show the universe some gratitude for all the blessings and all the great things that have happened to me, and just hope that I can make a small change in the world. Because there's got to be, if I was saved, if my family was saved, there's got to be a greater purpose than just, enjoying the great things of life that you get because you're doing well in life. Like, what are you doing to give back? What are you doing to create a better world than what was there when you arrived? And and
Oh, yeah.
and it starts with your family, then your friends, then your city, then your community, then wherever you can, and just start reaching out. And that's been my goal for, I've been doing this for 38 years. I'm finally in a position now where I can do a lot more than I've ever been able to do. And I enjoy that. And it gives me such great pleasure in doing it.
I absolutely love that. And I resonate like minded for sure, because I do feel like we're given much so that we can give back. And I'd say like when we look at the real estate industry as a whole, we are so blessed with so many generous colleagues. And I know like you're with Remax, and you guys give to is it the Children's Miracle Network still,
Yeah,
or is
yeah,
that?
that's right. Yeah, it's still part of it. The Sick Kids is part of it as well.
Oh,
There's so many different charities. I've always chosen local charities
yeah,
in my city where it's my way of thanking my community for
yeah,
supporting me. I just want to give as much back to the community. So whether it's the shelters, the food banks, the hospital, whatever is happening, Big Brothers, Big Sisters,
yeah,
whatever is happening locally, I really love supporting that. And then beyond that, I like supporting any underserviced third world countries for well water, housing.
yeah,
I'm an ambassador with World Housing, and we just finished building homes in Africa, in Philippines. We're looking at different projects throughout the world where women have to turn to prostitution just to feed their kids, or they're widowed, and they have no means of income. So how can we support them? So whether it's shelter, food, clothing, education for their kids,
yeah,
whatever we can do, it's one way of giving back, and we can change people's lives. And we are in an industry where we know what a home allows you to do. So imagine when you can create a home for somebody in Kenya,
yes,
or in some country where they've never even been able to get a book in their hands, and you could start educating them. That can change their entire world. And we've seen this at,
huge.
at, at our levels here.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's absolutely huge. I know with Royal LePage, we help with Inova. Well, we help with the Royal LePage Shelter Foundation, and in London, that goes to Inova. But every community has different ones. But I also have helped with like locally, but also near and dear. Kenya is actually a place I help with international teams with a school there,
Love that.
and I've been able to go and actually help build. And I think when we look at the opportunities we have as realtors, and yes, to see homes, but also just even financially, it it really does something when you can give it back, right? So I love that you do that. That's such a big deal. Okay, so I know we could probably talk forever, but just we have a few minutes left. So, um, if you were going to meet a new person that wanted to get a real estate license, they're thinking about it, they've seen people get their license, they have mixed feelings. What would your top advice pieces be?
First of all, be 100% committed that you're doing this for the right reasons.
Yeah,
Don't get into this business because you think you're going to make lots of money. Because if you don't make lots of money in your first year, you're going to think, well, this didn't work, right? So get into this business because you really are passionate about it. Like I still, 38 years in, I still wake up every morning raring to go, happy to face the day. Look, we have our ups and downs, right? But I like generally speaking, I'm so excited. Each day is different. Each is and come in with the mindset that you are building a business, that you are a startup.
yeah,
So that you're going to have a burn rate. You're going to have to burn through some money. You're going to have to invest in yourself. Align yourself with a good brand. It can be any company that is a good brand, because if you're not known, but the brand is known,
yeah,
that right away validates you. So don't think, oh, I'm going to go join a ABC Realty because it's cheap to work there, because that's not the answer. You will, and then align yourself with great people, mentors. We are in such a beautiful time where back in my day, how long have you been in the business, Krystal?
15 years.
Okay, so internet was not as
That's
available.
fun.
YouTube videos weren't there. There were
Yep.
no webinars and podcasts and all. So, I mean, kudos to you for doing what you're doing, because this is a great source for people getting into the business to learn, right? But we didn't have all of that, so we had to just depend on learning organically from what's around you.
Yep.
But take the time and educate yourself. Learn. Don't get stuck in a way. One of the secrets to my success is that I embrace technology. I evolved with whatever. Maybe it didn't work, but I tried it
Yes.
and I gave it a good shot
Yep.
until I found something that does work, and then I stuck to it until something better comes along, and then I
Yep.
give that a shot. So don't become a dinosaur. Like don't get set in your ways, but really stick to basics. Find out your who your sphere is, and then network. Don't be a secret agent.
Yep.
And invest in yourself. And I think I may have mentioned this on our Buffini chat that a month ago, that we're in an incredible business where we have billions of dollars worth of inventory on our lot
Yep.
that we don't have to pay for. So it's not like buying a bunch of cars and then selling them on your used car lot that you have to pay for and you're paying interest on. All of our inventory is free. So invest in yourself, invest in your branding, invest in your marketing, invest in your learning, and allow some time, but take action. Don't sit around waiting for things to happen.
Absolutely. I would also say, like, and thank you so much for sharing so openly. I'm the same way, and probably because that's how I learned. There will be successful agents out there that just they want to kind of hold everything tight and not tell you about it. And honestly, it's not a great way to be because at the end of the day, it's that confidence of you knowing like this is your system, but at the core of your system is you. And so as you're learning things, take what works, and then if something doesn't work for you, don't use it, right? It has to be authentic. And I love that you've taken kind of as you've grown, as you've like stayed successful, you've now taken this extra step to help others. And I think that that's a huge deal.
Okay,
Thank
well,
you.
I'm very blessed and I live in gratitude. So if I can give back, I'm happy to do so.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, Faisal, thank you so much. I really, really appreciate it. Now, if someone wants to get so they can read your book, we can get it. I bought mine on Audible, but where can we get your book?
Yeah, so Amazon is the best source for it.
Okay.
It's in most bookstores, but Amazon seems to be
Okay.
the go-to for most people, and it's a
Yeah.
quick delivery and whatnot. So yeah,
Wonderful.
and yeah, feel free to reach out to me, Faisal@homeshack.com, and we'd be happy to connect you as well.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Faisal. And thank you everyone for listening. This is Krystal Lee Moore-Lucier, also known as your home sweet home 519 Realtor, Krystal Lee Moore. This is Realtor Life, and we'll see you next time.